Hi, everyone, and welcome to our writing workshop on how to effectively respond to a short answer question. My name is Arpane Osepian, and I'm the English Language Arts Content Specialist for Sequoia Grove Charter Alliance. If you've been following along in our series, we started off in step one in understanding what is involved in the short answer question. In step two, we understood how the short answer question is graded by looking at rubrics. And in step three, we're going to understand how you can use the tree method to respond effectively. So let's dive in. When you think about a tree, as pictured here on the left, and also the name of our school alliance, Sequoia Grove Charter Alliance, trees always need roots in order to grow branches and leaves that give us this beautiful oxygen to breathe. In the same way, when you want to write a short answer question, think about how you can think of the metaphor of a tree as a way to help communicate and branch out different ideas you have so the reader can understand exactly what you're trying to communicate. For the acronym I created here and have used with students for a few years, the T stands for topic sentence, R stands for reference to title and author of the passage, E stands for evidence in the form of a quote from the article using quotation marks. And the second E is elaboration on how this quote relates to the question. If it helps you, we created this worksheet to help you have a place to organize your notes, where on the top you can write down the question, and subsequently you can see the breakdown of the TREE acronym with space for you to write your answer on the left. And here on the right, you would put all those pieces together to form your short answer question response. Now, when you're thinking about different tools to put in your toolkit as a writer, an important one is a writing checklist. This is something that I use all the time, sometimes in the form of a post it note near my laptop or just notes I write down on a scratch sheet of paper or on my computer documents. I always try to think of it as a checklist, something that I want to remember so I don't forget. So I try to think in my mind, did I include a topic sentence? Did I use evidence? Did I make that clear inference? Did I include examples from the text? Did I explain my inference and have a conclusion? Did I use transitional words? And did I include a concluding sentence? Well, sometimes we can have all of our best efforts and sometimes be given a question where we really don't know how to respond. And sometimes we might turn in an answer that looks like this. And we might get a grade that's an F and really start to wonder, what did I do wrong? This is an actual example I got from a student for the topic I've been sharing throughout this series. The student had written, the author tried to use reliable sources by getting quotes from scientists and our government. And student came back to me and said, but I have a sentence, that's my response. And I took out my TREE acronym and walked through each of the pieces with the student and explained that just because you write a sentence that really doesn't meet all the criteria for having an effective short answer question. Yeah, a sentence is a great way to write a text message to your friend or maybe respond to somebody in person. But realistically, in an academic setting, which is where these questions are being asked, you want to make sure that you use an acronym like TREE to remind yourself of the pieces that you need to include. So remember the motto I shared in part two, progress, not perfection? Well, the same student took the comments and discussion that I had with them and turned in this answer the next day. They wrote, the author, John Flesher, uses many influential and credible people's statements as evidence to support his claim. For example, Bob Thomas is a biologist, and Flesher uses Thomas's words to illustrate that, quote, oil has reached a position where it can start moving up the food chain. Now, I was thrilled when I got this revision from the student because I was able to see out of the TREE method, they got at least one of the E's, which was evidence from the article. Now, I will say my student did try to convince me that that first sentence is a topic sentence. Sure, it looks like it. It does include the author and it does give some effort to try to show that they're answering the question, but it doesn't meet the mark quite yet because it's not really answering a question. It's just stating a fact that we know the author uses claims to help describe the article. Now, the difference between the F and the C or D paper, you can clearly see simply by looking, it's two sentences versus one. But more importantly, when you look at the difference between a one and a two, you're going to start to see as a student, there's small little changes you can make in your writing that can make such a big difference. So spend a few minutes with me as we look at the A or B paper. This one starts off in the selection entitled Blue Crab Provide Evidence. Blue Crabs Provide Evidence of Oil Tainting Gulf Food Web by John Flesher. All the evidence that the author uses are from authority figures or people who can give a credible say in the matter. For example, the author included Vince Gilroy, who is the biologist manager with the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, Taylor, who was one of the researchers who discovered the orange spots, Perry, another researcher, Richard Condrey, a Louisiana State University oceanographer, Kaz Taylor, a biologist, and even Steve Headland, who is the editor of seafoodsource.com, so that they could provide an opinion on how the incident has affected humans. From each of these sources, we learn about the devastating result this oil spill has had on the crab larvae, which are known as, quote, keystone species. Overall, based on the evidence in the article, we can conclude that this oil spill has long term ecological and economic impacts. Wow, what a difference, right? Let's break this down. As you can see in the topic sentence, you're going to see really long titles in a lot of the passages you're going to have to read, whether they're online in textbooks or something that your teacher has asked you to look through in a book. Please, please, please be sure to write the full title, even though it's long, so you can communicate to your teacher or the person grading your paper that you understand that that's the official title of the piece. Next, please be sure you use the first and last name of the author in order to give credit to them. Then in your topic sentence, notice the difference between this topic sentence that includes the title and the author, and see what it says after the author's name. All of the evidence that the author uses are from authority figures or people who can give a credible say in the matter. Now compare that to the one. The author, John Flesher, uses many influential and credible people's statements as evidence to support his claim. See the slight difference just by simply adding the title and building just a little bit of explanation to communicate to the teacher. What does credible actually mean? How are these people voices of authority versus simply saying they're credible, or the F paper that just said the author tried to use reliable sources? Now, a lot of students might argue that the zero paper actually is trying to make an effort that they're reliable, but to have clarity and be effective as a writer, we really encourage students to give a full elaboration in their topic sentence. Moving forward, for the next sentence, the author went to the first E, which is evidence from the article. They started off with a great transitional word. For example, the author included, and then they listed all the different credible sources, which is wonderful because that lets your teacher understand that you read the article, number one. Number two, you're understanding the main point of the article. And number three, your writing skills are so advanced that what you're writing here is showing your academic writing powerhouse, I think, in terms of how you're able to communicate that concept to your teacher, and really doing an excellent job. Again, if you look at the one, they did use a quote, which is a wonderful start. But if you look at the two, because they started to explain each and every person's role and how that connects to the overall main idea, that's the type of elaboration and from the evidence that your teachers are going to be excited to read about when they get to the next part of the paragraph that says, overall, based on the evidence in the article, we can conclude that the oil spill has had long-term ecological and economic impacts. And again, this writer went one step further to pull out a separate quote from the reading passage and use keystone species to further show that they really understood the point of the reading. Now, again, all of us here at Sequoia Grove Charter Alliance understand that writing a short answer question is a lot more complicated than answering a multiple choice question, but we're confident that through the steps that we've shown throughout this video series, that you have the tools you need to be successful. And then at any time, if you have any questions or you want me to read any of the short answer prompts that you've been given and responses you have created, please feel free to reach out to me, and always know that if you keep on writing, you're going to keep reaching for the stars. Stay well, everybody, and thanks again for tuning into our video series.